So I'm getting questions about Taiwan and China again, and it makes sense because China's conducting these drills around Taiwan in response to Taiwanese President Tsai visiting the United States and visiting with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and it being a big deal to them. It's not a big deal. It's just China always has knee-jerk reactions to anything that seems to impact their national pride. This is an ongoing situation of their policy with regard to rectifying the century of humiliation. So anytime anyone does anything that is perceived as humiliating to the CCP, such as a Taiwanese person visiting with the US person, there's a knee-jerk reaction like a petulant child. And that's what China is in these situations. They draw the collective eye roll of the world. Even their local neighbors, such as the Philippines, Vietnam, Japan, all just look at this and go, this is complete nonsense. And the reason is because we all know that China doesn't really have the capability to truly take on Taiwan and take the country. So why do they do it? Well, again, it's to save face within their own population, to show that they are actually strong. But when you really look at how they conduct these exercises, they're what I call parade exercises. And Russia is notorious for conducting these ultra scripted, the Chinese always win exercises. And I can tell you that from personal experience as a planner at the Joint Multinational Readiness Center, which is where where NATO largely trains there in Grafenwehr in Germany, the West doesn't always win. In fact, we have to reset them quite often to reteach them and retrain them. Meanwhile, in China and Russia, they always win. It doesn't matter. And it's for show. And it's further for show because if you look at some of the graphics they put out in these things, it's ridiculous. They're showing missile arcs and point of origin, point of impact in Taiwan and showing how they would destroy them, like Michael Bay level shit. And I can tell you from personal experience, the U.S. military, which is the most advanced military in the history of the world, doesn't use bullshitty graphics like that. It's a waste of resources. Most of the stuff I used when I was a battle captain in a tactical operations center involved things like PowerPoint and the garbage command post of the future. And yes, we had drone feeds on TV and we had maps that showed our Blue Force Tracker or FBCB2 system. Let me know if you remember any of those gems of systems, but none of it was, you all would actually be quite disappointed if you walked into a tactical operations center and saw what it really looked like. They're not like all these cool graphics flying across the screens like you see in these Chinese press releases and stuff. So what it is it's a parade military. They're just showing just generated stuff, sending it to the various mainstream media networks for them to like gin up some sort of fear within the Western powers while also creating pride in their own Chinese people. And it works generally because I see these, like, look at China shooting missiles in these various arcs. I'm like, oh, really? They're really going to show you exactly where the point of origin and point of impact is there, fucking Tucker Carlson? No, guy. Basically, they're just showing you the Hollywood version of their military because their real actual military is not as strong as what they can portray on screen. So with that being said, I do believe that China is hurting their image with these drills, these exercises. There's basically two parties within Taiwan. You have the one party is the Taiwan Democratic Progress Party, and that's the current administration, President Tsai's administration, and its position is generally that Taiwan should be an independent country. On the other side, you have the Nationalist Party, which was the party that generally used to be more in conflict with the Chinese Communist Party, but has recently softened and said that it can work with the CCP under the One China policy, whether it's economics and such. On both sides of the aisle there, you have extremes. You have one extreme in the Taiwan Democratic Progress Party that says, we want an official declaration of independence, a very small fringe. On the other side of the aisle, you have a very small fringe of people that say we want immediate unification with Taiwan or with China, between Taiwan and China. We want them unified officially. 90% of Taiwan is in the middle. saying they just want to maintain the status quo. They don't want necessarily China to pull in Taiwan as a part of China and absorb them, but they also don't want to completely ruin ties with China. So when China does things like this, when they pretend to blockade or conduct drills or fire missiles over the Taiwanese people, more and more of those in the center move to the fringes towards the Democratic Party, Progress Party side, more towards the Taiwanese independent side. The best thing China can do is just ignore when Taiwan's president meets with a U.S. official, because the status quo for China means that they still have access to the Taiwanese economy. It means that they can continue to trade with them. Currently, Taiwan is trying to decouple from China, just like many other countries, because of the belligerent attitude China has towards Taiwan. That is why you see Taiwan inking deals with Japan and South Korea and Europe and Australia and the United States and Canada. And they've even started moving some of their capability to Mexico. China is losing influence because they're embarrassing themselves by saber rattling against Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party's basic principle concerning Taiwan for decades was peaceful unification. They still officially say that. So when they go out and try to conduct drills because Xi Jinping got all poopy-faced because he doesn't get to dictate terms of the world, it undermines their authority and it makes them look like the laughingstock, because then it exposes just how silly their military truly looks. Their aircraft carrier that they pushed out there was a ramp aircraft carrier. Those are hugely ineffective compared to the U.S. operated carriers. And I did a video about this, how the U.S. Navy has just more advanced and powerful carrier systems. So the bottom line for China is they can't look across the Taiwan Strait and say 90% of the people who want to maintain the status quo are the enemy of us. That's just not going to work. They're not going to be able to take Taiwan by force. So they have to lure them away economically. They have to strengthen economic ties until Taiwan has no other way but to integrate with China at a level that satisfies both sides. That's diplomacy. China's just not going to get its way in this situation. The fact that Taiwan embraced democracy and has held on to it for more than 70 years isn't going to change with a series of exercises and a series of saber-rattling rhetoric. And China needs to understand that. They would look better on the international stage ignoring what was going on between Taiwan and the U.S. and just building ties. But instead, when you threaten, you break ties apart. You make it seem like there's instability, and you make it seem like there's no reason to conduct business with each other. And that's what it's looking like. And China is starting to become a little bit more desperate on the international stage because of its demographic problems, because of its foreign debt crisis situation. There's just a lot of problems heading down the pipe in China. So to distract its people, it focuses on Taiwan. And it's just this age-old way of doing things, whether it's the United States, Europe, China, doesn't matter. China's leadership, for them to move on from this, just need to accept how utterly meaningless and counterproductive it is to intimidate Taiwan with military force. Under the current circumstances, they need to find other avenues, lure Taiwan in with honey, because the whole stick of the carrot and the stick approach just isn't going to work, especially when Taiwan continues to bolster its alliances with a more powerful conglomerate of military alliances or military powers.